of a different race, then that's a form of discrimination because race and sex are not relevant to normal work situations. In society, there are many differences that we deem as justifiable or fair. For instance, we think it's fair when the first person in line at the movies gets first choice in movie tickets. Or we think it is just when the government gives benefits to people in need that it doesn't give to more wealthy citizens. Or we think it's fair when those who have put forth more effort and contribution in a work project or an internship, for instance, receive more benefits or they're rewarded the job in the end. And all of these are examples that we acknowledge as justifying differential treatment. There are also differences that we believe are not justifiable grounds for treating people differently. For example, we grasp that it is unjust or unfair to give individuals special treatment based on age, sex, race, or religious preferences. For example, going back to my last example, we think it is unfair when someone is being paid more because they are a man or of a different race, or when males are promoted faster than what women are. There are three kinds of justice that I found, one being distributive justice, which refers to fairness and justice of a decision's results. Employees expect a fair and unbiased decision as well as attitude and pay, and they believe that there should be an equal distribution of resources among all people working in an organization. For example, employees want to know, does the company follow a fair appraisal policy? Did they get equitable pay compared to others working in the same organizations or industries? And is everybody getting an equal opportunity of growth in the workplace or in the organization? And there's three principles to distributive justice, one being the nature of the recipient, which can be an individual, a group, or an organization. The second is the basis of distribution, which is equality, maximization of priority, or relevance, which can be income, opportunity, wealth, and etc. A second important kind of justice is procedural justice, and that can be defined as the fairness of a process by which a decision was reached. According to our textbooks, there are 6 main areas employees will use to determine the outcome of a conflict, which is consistency, bias suppression, information accuracy, correctability, representativeness, and ethicality. Basically, employees want to know, are the procedures consistent throughout the workplace? Are the people making the decisions unbiased? Are the decisions being made can be appealed and mistakes can be corrected? All concerns have been considered and the decision is in line with moral societal standards. The last important kind of justice is interactional or impersonal, which can be defined as the manner in which managers conduct their interpersonal dealings with employees, how managers interact with employees, how employees interact with each other, and how employees interact with coworkers. Interactional justice pertains to the behavior of leaders and managers as they execute their decisions. For example, when a manager is demonstrating interactional justice, they will promote based on experience and performance. However, if they promote someone based on friendship, then they're in direct violation of interactional justice. Just as interactional justice impacts the manager-employee relationship, it also affects the relationships coworkers have with each other. For example, when an employee is selected to create a special project, they demonstrate interactional justice by choosing a team of coworkers who are qualified rather than selecting a team of coworkers who are friends. When employees interact from a place of interactional justice, they understand the importance of treating each other with the same level of honesty, integrity as they expect from management. Coworkers who treat each other fairly promote a positive work environment for both themselves as well as customers. Positive changes in these forms of justice were found to be strongly related to job satisfaction and effective organizational commitment. In particular, procedural justice was more strongly related to employee attitudes than any other type of justice. Fairness and justice is a central part of ethics and should be given due consideration in the workplace as well as our moral lives. In evaluating moral decisions, we must always remember to ask ourselves, do our actions treat all persons equally. And with that being said, thank you for listening, and now I'm going to pass it to Eric.
How's it going, guys? I'm going to talk about the use of information that human resource professionals and companies use, regarding employees and other individuals' personal information, and the importance of that. That being said, we all have so much information on Instagram, everything, Snapchat. There's so many different areas that companies nowadays use, so we have to be mindful of that. And information literacy, as I said, is a core principle of human resource professionals and regulating and how they use sensitive information about their employees. So as much as the individual has to be mindful, the company should also be mindful of what is used. And this picture, it's very important, obviously, for communication. Communication is key, and human resource professionals consider and protect the rights of employees of the company. And when it is shown by management and human resource professionals that they can, have the ability and the power to use employees' information the correct way, ethically, it creates this bond of trust, and that then spans out and is seen by other employees, and helps reduce anxiety and helps create truthful connections and forms of communication. Next, information sharing. It's important to maximize open exchanges of information and how information is given and distributed throughout a company. You want to try to do it as ethically in the correct manner as possible, because obviously this is employees' information, so it has the potential to have them lose their job or damage them mentally, emotionally, so you want to be very careful in doing that. That being said, you want to be on the same page when you're dealing with others' information, and you want to make sure that it's accurate, and you want to make sure that your sources are accurate. That being said, there are 7 main guidelines that companies should follow to ensure the best use of individual and employee information. As the slide says, useful information. When you acquire and distributing the information through the company, you want to make sure it's done in an ethical and responsible way, so reputations are not damaged, and the employee is not hurt or bothered or anything like that. Later on, it's important to ensure that only the appropriate information, because in companies can select certain information about an employee and try to pin it against you and use it in certain ways. So that's really detrimental in making decisions, so you want to make sure that is correct. Double checking for accurate information, so the sources of where the company and human resource professionals get their information is also important. So managers should double check and make sure that their source is a credible source. And make sure that it's related to an important employment decision. You want to, like I said, maintain current and accurate human resource information, so your records are up to date. So if there's any changes in the employee's life or in the company's work of operation, you want to make sure they're up to date. Next, you want to make sure that if anything does changes throughout the company or in the employee's life, you want that to be updated as quickly as possible, so there are not mistakes made regarding the employee. You should take accurate and ethical and appropriate steps to make sure that the information is complete and up to date. Next, you want to make sure that there are safeguards that restrict employees inside and also protect them from others on the outside. Obviously, you don't want to disclose any information like company secrets or whatnot. But then again, it's also very important that the employees themselves are protected from any outside threats, because it's personal and sensitive information. So like I said, protect your information. It's confidential. You want to make sure that there are safeguards in place. Management should take appropriate steps to ensure the accuracy and completeness of regarding human resource policies and practices, just to make sure that, like I said earlier, everything's up to date and they're following the correct standard, code of conduct, and that they're conducting their, how they're running things and making decisions accordingly and in the correct manner. Employees can always refer back to the handbook, employee handbook, which is also another reason why it's important to make sure your guidelines and codes are up to date. So if they have any issues, concerns, or questions, that they're getting accurate answers and regarding their questions and concerns. Similar to their policies and practices, human resource management, the training that is given to the human resource professionals should also be up to date, so that they're answering the questions correctly and following how the company thinks is the best way to handle situations. I put this up there because I believe that if you work hard and you, as our whole group has already been talking about, work in an ethical way, luck is on your side and everyone will be successful. Who's next? Chris, sorry.
Alright guys, so my name is Chris and I'm going to be concluding this presentation on professional development. So professionals in the business field strive to meet the highest standards of proficiency while they commit to trying to continually increase their capacity on a daily basis. So how is this done? This is done through professional development. Professional development is the process of improving staff capability through proper training and access to education in the workplace. This typically happens inside an organization, but it can happen outside an organization as well, depending on the company. So how do organizations execute professional development? Well, skill-based training is an example that comes to mind. Skill-based training is just making sure that the individual has the proper skills, the proper knowledge that they need to perform their specific task or their specific job. So in my job, I'm a backroom manager at Walmart, and I commit to spending a full day with my associates one-on-one because I do want to make sure that I personally give them the skills and the knowledge that they need to perform their task properly and confidently as well. Another method of professional development is challenging expectations of individuals in order to increase learning outcomes and quality performance, meaning that organizations kind of want to push their employees or the individuals not just for their benefit, but to develop the people in the long run. So going back to my job, I won't give my associates more work, but I'll give them a more difficult task. Most of my guys just unload trucks and stock shelves, but if I'm confident enough, I'll teach them to do something more technical, like checking in the electronics that comes off the shelves, or if I'm really confident, I'll have them change inventory counts in a department. And one more method of professional development that I'll dive into is exercising your professional judgment when you are challenging these individuals, because yeah, you want to challenge them and push them to make them better, but you want to use your judgment to make sure that they are ready. You still want to set them up for success. So again, going back to my job, I'll put someone in charge of running the truck. I'll pick one person in charge of running 6 or 7 other people to make sure that the truck is getting done efficiently. But I'm not going to pick someone who's never been on the truck before or has only worked the truck twice. I'm not setting them up for that success because they wouldn't know what the hell they were doing. There are many, many more ways that professionals execute professional development, and just by kind of listening to some of the methods I said in my examples, you can tell that the organization has to be involved. This doesn't happen on its own or independently, nor would it benefit the individual even if it did. So that's why professional development is important, but what makes it ethical? Why is training somebody ethical? Why is challenging them ethical, and why is, using your judgment, like